Hello YouTube, my name is Bookie and I am back with another book review, and this time it's on The Kept Ones, The Beginning Years, Bunny DeBarge. Now what made me want to read this book is Bunny's brother Tommy DeBarge died a few weeks ago, or was it maybe a few weeks ago, about a month ago, but this made me want to read her book. He also has one also that I'm going to read in the future, but today I'm going to do my book review on her book. Now, I can't say that I really did like this book because her chapters were short and she gave enough detail to where it's like you just wanted to keep reading the book. Well, I just wanted to keep reading the book. And one con I had about this book was you could tell it probably was self-published because she, in some sections, indented too much. And then I found a few misspellings. But, hey, I done found books that have been perfect when it comes to how they look, how they're indented, the grammar, and their garbage. But her book was perfect to me. Let's see. So let me get to this book review. She starts off her book talking about her mother, 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚, and her father, Robert DeBarge, how they met. See, one night, her mother, 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚, and 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜's sister were coming from a skating rink. And this guy named Robert Powles walked them home. 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 and this guy, Robert Powles, exchanged numbers. He was in the Marines, and when he would call her, she would not be around. When she would call him, he would not be around. So one day, from what Bunny says, 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 called the number he gave her and kind of found he was in the Marines. So she did not say his full name. She must have just said Robert. So someone got on the intercom system and was like, Robert DeBarge, you have a phone call. So he got on the phone. He was like, I don't know 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜, but they both got to talking over the phone. She did not realize she was not talking to Robert Powles, and he knew he didn't know 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜, but he liked the way she sound. And then he admitted to her over that phone call that you're not speaking to the correct Robert. I'm Robert DeBarge. But he, got in her head and was telling her, he liked the way she sound, and he asked her, how does she feel about white men? And she started telling him the different stories she heard about white men, and someone he convinced her, that they should keep talking or dealing with each other. And as time went on, they would secretly see each other, but she did not want her family to know. The way her family found out that she was dating a white man was because one day he secretly showed up to her house, walked in, and introduced himself. And right from the start, her family was against it. And Bunny said in the book, if her grandfather would have still been living, that marriage would have never took place. And so the story goes on, and Bunny talks about how her parents were unequally yoked. 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 came from a family where they was raised up in the church, whereas Robert DeBarge, he came from a family where his mother was prejudiced. They didn't grow up in a church, and the father, he basically did whatever the mother said. So you better believe that when he married 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜, he cut ties with his family because they would not accept the fact that he wants to marry a black woman. Bunny describes how there are many fights between 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 and Robert, how if she jumped in between him trying to discipline his kids, how she would get some of the beatings. And it just, you would have to read the book. I don't want to give a lot of things away, and I don't want to get her facts incorrect, but things had just got so bad between 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 and Robert DeBarge, she'll leave and go back home, leave and come and go back home. He always convinced her to come back, that he's going to change, but, you know, that never happened. Then in Bunny's story, she goes on to talk about how her father started molesting her. I believe, let's see, how did it start in the book? I mean, how did she start off with this? One night she was in the bed with her brothers, and he came in, I guess, to, you know, tuck them in, and she thought that he thought they were asleep. But then Bunny felt that he was touching her in her private area, and then he put one of her brothers on top of her, and then he thought she was asleep. So what she did was took her brother off of her when the dad left out the room. And she thought that was kind of strange. Like, why would he touch me in that spot? So then another section she gets to, she talks about how one day they was all looking at TV. And she sat in his lap, and she had a blanket around her. And he started touching her down there again. And it just went on and on and on. And you know, you could tell in the story it was messing with her mental state. Bobby, he was the one who brought it up to their mother that something was going on with Bunny, but she didn't want to tell it. So 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚, she got Bunny to confess that her dad was molesting her. So they end up leaving. And as usual, she'll take him back. Or in this case, she took him back. And for a while, Bunny stayed with one of her sisters. Then after a while, she was telling her sister, Bunny's my child. You know, you can't keep Bunny. But her sister and uncle were like, you know, you do not need to go back to this man, especially with Bunny, because he's molesting her. But 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚 didn't want to hear. At one point, she wanted to say, maybe Bunny told everyone this because she wanted me to leave Robert. You know, just want to stay with this man. So her uncle and auntie did everything they could to try to keep Bunny. They even wanted her to go in and get evidence that she had been molested. But every time they took her to a doctor, she didn't want to get proof that he had been molesting her. She was scared. So she had to end up going back to live with her parents. Let's get to the beatdown. So at another point, 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚 decided she was tired of Robert again, so they moved out and they moved into their own apartment. They started coming around more until one day 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 and Robert DeBarge got into it again. And Bunny called her uncles. It was two uncles. I can't remember the name of one of her uncles, but I do remember Uncle Norman because she called her aunt, and her aunt told her daughter to go get their uncles. Their uncles rolled over to the apartment, and they knocked on the door, and Bunny let them in. So they tiptoed upstairs, and they bust through a door where 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚 and Robert DeBarge were arguing. And Norman was like, you know, what's up, Robert? You know, you been putting your hands on my sister and all that. And then he started beating up on her. Bunny said that her dad ended up getting 2 black eyes and a broken nose. Because like the uncle said, Uncle Norman, this has been a long time coming. We are tired of you. You've been beating up on my sister for years. We are tired of this. He beat on Robert DeBarge so bad to Bunny and her brothers had to stop him. Like they started hitting on him so he could stop beating on their daddy. 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚, you know, she was in the background most likely saying stop, stop, stop. And even the other uncle was telling Norman, stop, that's enough. So he stopped. And Bunny said this at this point, they started feeling sorry for their dad. And at this point, they lost all respect for him because he was no longer the boogeyman to them, because he always tried to put fear in them. But now they actually saw that he could be scared. He was not as big and bad as he thought he was, apparently. And At some point in the story, Bonnie goes on to say that her dad lost his job, and later on he wanted to find a job at the post office in Detroit, which was another city from where they was staying. Because at this point, they was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So he found a job in Detroit. She said he would come home on weekends, and then it changed until he was coming home every other weekend. And then eventually he stopped coming home, and him and 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜 got divorced. Then it goes on to say how Bonnie, she started, how should I put it? It's like she started getting a little fast. I know at one point in the story, she met a guy named Kevin at a dance. And, you know, right from the beginning, you know, if you could tell he was probably one of them guys you should stay away from, because from the beginning, from the way she described it, it just seemed like he was trying to pull something over on her. Don't ask me why I feel this, but it just felt like from the beginning. They had been talking, I guess, during the school dance. They had got to know each other. And then she asked him, could he give her cousin her ride home? And he was like, sure, you give me $5. So she was like, never mind. So she said she turned around. For some reason, she found a $5 bill on the ground. And she was like, he $5. So then he was like, that's my $5 I just dropped. So she was like, that's okay. And right then and there, that's what gave me the thought that Kevin is not right. But anyway, they met up again, and he apologized to her and told her that the $5 that you found, or that you had, that wasn't mine. I was just playing with you. And she continued on seeing him. Even though he didn't like the fact that she could sing, he was jealous of that. And he wanted her to stay in school, but Bonnie did not like school. Bonnie liked the singing. So at some point, she ended up getting pregnant with her daughter, 𝔹𝕠𝕠𝕜𝕚. And Kevin, you know, he started acting funny. They would see each other lesser and lesser. This hurt Bonnie, but after a while, she got over it. Then she ended up meeting this guy named Tony. He played in a band with her brother, Bobby. And he was basically, when they met, he was basically telling her, you know, that I could treat you better than the guy that you're in love with. And he did. You know, they would do all kinds of things together. If you read the story, you will find out. And at some point, you know, they got married. And at first, she didn't want to accept his proposal because she wanted to find out whether she's still in love with Kevin. But one Christmas she spent some time with Tony, and well, his name is Anthony also, but she calls him Tony. And she spent some of it with Kevin. And she knows it just didn't feel the same anymore with Kevin. So this is what I think made her want to accept Anthony's or Tony's proposal. And then in the story, she goes in and talks about how her brothers, I believe it was Elle, her, and Randy, I believe. They formed a group called God's Children of Harmony. And it was a gospel group where they sing and they go around and testify and talk to people. And they had got so confident until they wanted to sign on with this record company called Light Record Company. But Light Record Company said they sounded good, but they didn't believe they could market them. So this basically, you know, broke them down until they decided they was going to change the type of music that they sing. And this happened because one day Randy, Mark called Randy, their brother, and told him, hey, in LA, they got this person that want to sign all of us on, and we could start singing R&B. And first, Randy, he left. Then L. And it got to a point where Bonnie, she was indecisive because she was like, her problem, I think, was L was, you know, the last brother to leave who was in their group. And her and L had became close because they would write songs together. And, you know, they were just good as a group. And the job he had didn't work out for him, so he decided, hey, I'm going to leave. I believe his job was shoveling snow. And you see, DeBarge is a small man. And I guess all that shoveling snow, as Bunny said, that was too much for him. So he didn't like that job. So he's like, well, hey, I'm going to go to LA also. So Bunny, you know, by her being close to her brothers, this made her want to leave. So I believe this is when they probably formed the DeBarge group, which consisted of, I believe, Randy, Mark, L, Bunny, and James. But at this point, I don't think James was included in the group yet. And there is a part 2 to this book, so maybe in the next book, she's going to explain how he joined the group, but I'm not sure if this is the DeBarge group yet, because she didn't mention James. But at this point, she talks like they're going to start singing secular music, something that's going to sell. And that's what I read. Now, one thing that I could say about the DeBarge family, I can understand how their past affected them because my past has affected me. You know, it's bad. I always say that from birth to 18 years old, those are the years that affect you. And whatever goes on in those years, that's going to influence your adulthood. I didn't experience what they experienced, but I have went through a lot of things in my childhood. Not like molestation or anything like that, but I have went through things that still affect me to this day. And I could, you know, really empathize with her on what she went through. And one thing I liked about this book also was someone told them, it was a lady preacher who they met, and she told, I believe it was DeBarge. Let me read this part. There was a female preacher by the name of Jackie McCullough. She was truly anointed by God. Uncle Bill heard her preach and had invited her to come speak at our church. She was truly a blessing to us and delivered a mighty word to the saints. She had the gift of prophecy and called out different saints from the congregation. Elle was one of them. She told him that the word was calling him to do their music. She knew that he was indecisive of which way to go. She saw him leaving the church with his family and becoming famous. She said that we as a family had a great love in us, which I believe they did, and that Satan would try to destroy. We would turn against one another, and if we didn't come back to the Lord, eventually we'll lose our minds. She said, Bunny says this prophecy stuck with her. She was literally speaking our lives. All of us were saying we wanted to go out there for the Lord, but we were really being tempted. And they did end up singing secular music. And as time went on, you know, apparently they started doing more drugs and more things that Satan was putting in their pathway. But that's the end of my book review. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you to people who have subscribed to me already. You know, please leave comments, good or bad. Just don't leave nothing when you are trying to be critical and not trying to help me, basically. Because I would really appreciate how I could do better on this channel. This is my book review. I think the next book I'm going to do a book review on is going to be a YA book. So stay tuned, and I will see you in a few weeks. Bye.